Awesome. Hello. Welcome. Thank you all for joining us tonight. You are jumping into the very first in our 2022 New Year's series. I am still getting used to saying that. 2022, holy cow, we made it. Feel free to put in the comments where you're watching from, if you're a CSU grad, what year you graduated, all of that good stuff. This is the first of a 4-part series, so welcome. You are here for financial health and goals. If that is not what you were planning on tonight, I hope you'll still join us. But next week we will have movement as medicine, followed by a healthy cooking class, and then we will end on healing and hope. Lots of good stuff ahead in the series. They will take place every Tuesday night. So bookmark your calendars. We hope to see you all again soon. Another great way to stay connected with everything is to download our CSU Alumni Association app. It's a great way to get just updates, notifications, all of that good stuff. Finally, I want to give a couple of huge thank yous tonight. First, I want to say thank you to Nancy Patton and Canvas Credit Union. They really do allow us to do this program, as well as support a number of our Alumni Association events. And then thank you to our Alumni Association members who support all we do. Our programming would not be possible without each and every one of you. So a sincere and heartfelt thank you. If you are a member, you got one of the awesome member calendars. It's one of the things I look forward to most at the beginning of every single year. And if you are not a member, it is not too late to join. Here in a moment, I will put into the comments more information on membership and how you can get some of that. So definitely encourage you to join. I am now going to turn it over to Nancy. She is our resident financial expert, CSU alum, just completely amazing at what she does. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about financial health goals, budgeting, saving, goal setting, all of that for the new year. So with that, Nancy, I will hand it over to you.
Well, thank you. Welcome, everybody. Financial health and goals. It's a pretty common thought at the beginning of the year. I got a kick out of your calendar comment, Alexandra. I'm looking over my right shoulder and looking at my alumni calendar. I also noticed you didn't put my graduation year in on my name, and that's probably good because it was a really long time ago, but I am a CSU grad. So, I want to challenge everybody to use the chat function freely tonight. Alexandra's watching that. She does a fabulous job of sharing comments or questions that come in as we do these classes. So, matter of fact, I'd like to warm you up and have you put into chat one word that comes to mind when you hear budget. What one word comes to your mind when you hear budget? If you don't mind throwing that into the chat. And then I am Nancy Patton with Canvas Credit Union. For the next few minutes, we're going to talk about the why and the how of some financial basics. And I really do want to thank Alexandra and the Alumni Association for the opportunity to offer these personal finance classes. It's a really cool option at the end that there will be some handouts as well as the slides that are available to you. So that'll happen when we wrap up the seminar. Again, please use chat to make comments or questions as we go. And then we're going to take a couple polls and you'll have a chance to share your opinion that way. So with that, Alexandra, did anybody comment on what comes to mind when they hear the word budget?
Excel, uncertain is on there, mysterious. I also see that the chat may not be working for everyone, so I will go ahead and try to problem solve that. But if you are heart set on questions or words, I'll also put a little banner with my phone number and feel free to text those on while we problem solve that. But I think of Excel too. That's a good one. Uncertain is also a very, very good one.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's when I ask that question, often the responses are sort of challenging words. It's not the happiest thing usually that we're thinking about. So, although we may think that budgeting is a great idea, I bet you've been, maybe you've tried it out and maybe you've struggled. But the good news is there's lots of ways to set up a budget. So, tonight we're going to talk about the budget process. We're going to give you different methods to pick from to do a budget. We're going to talk about challenges and tips to beat those challenges that people have run into. Then we're going to switch a little bit and talk more about savings, emergency savings, different ways to go about saving money. And then we'll go from that concept of managing money in the moment to thinking more about our future goals. So let's start by thinking about why people make a budget. So some really common reasons are you want to have control over your money. It does bring peace of mind. Perhaps you're trying to save for a particular goal. A lot of times people end up starting the budgeting process to manage a financial crisis. And I love this phrase about telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. People sometimes just reach a frustration point of, I just don't know what's happening. And they realize that a budget would help with that. It does help with communication when you're in a relationship because money's a big part of our relationships. And finally, I think it is just a way to manage the unknown. When we don't know what's going on, it's scary. But we can manage what we know, even if it's not like what we like. We can at least manage it if we see what's happening. So I don't know if anyone saw, there was a recent announcement about a pro hockey player. He was making $7 million per year, and yet he filed for bankruptcy. So his assets were around 10 million. He had 26 million in debt. Now, he's certainly not the only person who earns large sums of money and wasn't managing his budget or building savings. But it just goes to prove that it's not your income that determines your success with money management. So we agree there are a lot of great reasons to use a budget. Now, how do we set one up? Please remember there is no right or wrong way to do it. There certainly isn't only one way to do it. We're going to talk about some common steps and concepts, but your budget won't be like anyone else's. So everybody's budget is different, not just because we have different incomes, but because every household has different priorities and different expenses and different values. So I want to spend just a minute on values, because as you look at where your money's going, a theme really needs to be that you're checking to see that your spending and your saving matches your personal values. So for some of us, we value good nutrition more than others, or maybe you are forced to do that because of a special needs diet. But then the food portion of your budget is going to be higher than someone else's. Maybe you're passionate about a charity, and a portion of your budget, it's really important to you that you allow to your contribution to that charity. Some of us love to travel. Alexandra and I commiserate all the time about, can we travel? Can we not travel? I have a manager, a leader who hates to travel. And so our values are different about this. His budget does not include that. My budget totally does. Do you have a pet? Oh my goodness, how much do we spend on our pets? It shocks me every time I do my monthly budget and I see how much my husband is spending on our beloved cat and dog. Some people, it's the appearance of their home or the appearance of themselves that's very important. And other people could care less about how big their apartment is, but they want to catch every live concert in a 200-mile radius. So your budgets look different. And here's a really big one. Do you have children? So these are personal choices. They're based on our values and they determine how our money is spent. And just like we have different income, different expenses, different values, we like to tackle projects in different ways. So, although every budget needs certain things, you have to have a way to record income, track your expenses, and show the balance. But there are lots of methods for doing that. So, we're going to show you a variety of ways to keep track of your numbers. And remember that the important thing is just to keep track. Please be patient with yourself. It will take some time to build a habit of budgeting. And please aim for progress, not perfection, as you get started. Alexandra, we were going to do a poll here, and I don't know if
Yeah.
that's able to go.
Yes. So for those of you who have not used Poll Everywhere, and I apologize, I'm looking to the side to get this going, you will visit at the top of this screen, POLLEV.com/CSU Rams 282. So if you want to type that in on your phone, we will give you a minute to get going. But your first question will be, my approach to budgeting is. So again, go ahead, type that in. The poll should pop up. You can put in a real name. You can put in a fake name if you want to be anonymous. While you're getting that set up, I'll put my number on the screen again. If you have questions for Nancy, feel free to also text them to me and we can get any questions answered right now. But we'll make sure this poll is going. Give you all a couple of minutes to answer. And it's looking like we need to make it live, which is my bad. Give me 1 minute and we will do a take two.
No worries. I haven't used Poll Everywhere for a while because I use it in my live classes, and I haven't done a live class for too long.
All right, take two. It should be live now. Thank you for the patience with us tonight. Seems like we have a little bit of technology woes on all ends, but we do have a couple of responses coming in. We should be able to see them live.
There we go.
Oh, we got a nice little split with this crew, and I'm glad to see that it is indeed working. Thank you all for jumping into that. We'll give it about 30 seconds. And again, if you're having problems, my number is at the bottom of the screen and we'll certainly help problem solve for you as well.
Awesome. And this is pretty common, guys. A lot of people have a vague idea of what's happening with their money, and then a smaller proportion that are diligently doing the budgeting thing. And then, boy, it's not not uncommon to have people that they've never tried it. It wasn't part of their upbringing. They haven't had a need before this to really tackle those numbers. So.
And I will say, if you are part of the 20% who said, I have no idea how to do this, I was you as a new grad for about 2 or 3 years after graduation. Didn't even think about being in a class like this. Learned the hard way. So just being here, I think, is a huge win. And let's go ahead. We'll jump ahead to our next question. So it looks like everyone is, wow. I'm not sure. Either folks haven't voted or we have no one that is old school on here, which is.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. We'll have those people who are using apps, we'll have you share which one you're using. So. Yeah, it is, and this is also extremely common that we're spread out, lots of people doing it lots of different ways. I'll tell you that that's the biggest percentage of people using an app that I've ever seen doing a class. So maybe we truly have young alumni who are super comfortable with the whole electronic option. But yeah, it definitely, everybody's got a system, but there are a lot of choices out there. Well, awesome. Thank you all so much for using Poll Everywhere, and Alexandra for your quick work in getting that to happen.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at the steps you'd go through to set up a budget. And I suddenly don't have the ability to move the slides, or it may move again on our on its own. So here's the 6 steps that you'd go through. You're going to get all your numbers together. This is taking a look at your current spending and your current income. You're going to have to choose a tracking system. Is it going to be an app? Is it going to be a notebook? You're going to put the numbers in, because it doesn't do any good to get the numbers together and then not put them into your system. Fortunately, the math is easy, but you are going to have to do at least one math calculation. Once you've got that done, it's a matter of making a plan. You're going to have a picture of your money now. What are you going to do with that picture? What do you like? What do you don't like? And then it is not a one and done deal. Budgeting is a habit. And so you're going to keep repeating month to month, putting those numbers in, seeing where you stand, changing up what you need to change up. It's not that complicated. It does take some dedication, and we're going to dive into each of these steps. But I do want to put a note in here that if there's more than one person in your household who's earning and spending money, and your money's combined together, then before you go too deep into this budgeting process, we really encourage you to talk to the other person. And for the best success in creating a budget and making future money plans, you'll need the participation from everybody who's contributing money and spending money in your household. So we said that we were going to dig into each of these. Alexandra, there we go. Are you moving?
I can move it if you're not seeing it. I just didn't want
Yeah,
to jump ahead too
for
quick.
some reason, I'm not getting it to move. So technology, we love it so much. Step one is to get your numbers together. So most people set up their budget on a monthly basis, and that's because there are many expenses. Some of them are primary expenses that occur on a monthly basis. So it helps if you can get together numbers for the last 2 or 3 months, kind of average them out, see what, you forgot this month, but you have that month. But don't worry if you can't find everything right away. Just do the best you can to get started, to get together your numbers. You'll probably want to use your account statements or go back online in your bank and credit union accounts. You're going to want to look at pay stubs, any bills you've got, receipts sitting around, your memories, anything you can do that pulls in numbers of what you've been earning and spending recently. And then next slide, Alexandra. Now that you have the numbers, you can choose what system you want to use to track. So there are some really popular options, like we talked about, the app and just plain notebooks. A lot of people use an online template. And one of the really basic ones is to put your numbers on a calendar. So I'm going to start with that one. And then, of course, the spreadsheet, good old spreadsheets. I use a custom spreadsheet. Excel, that was one of our words at the beginning. So this calendar method doesn't dig deep into where your money's going. It's more of a 30,000-foot look at your month of money. And it helps you figure out when it's coming in and when it needs to go out. And it's just that general overview. So on a calendar, you'd mark your income on the pay days. You'd add the bills in that you know are due on a certain date. And then right there, you've got a picture of, well, this paycheck is going to have to cover these 2 bills. This paycheck won't cover my entire rent. I'm going to have to be sure to save some from both paychecks in order to hit my rent number. So again, this isn't a deep dive into your spending. It's more of a giant overview of what your month looks like. And we'll do the next slide, Alexandra. So that calendar was a big picture, but most people want to dig deeper, or they feel like they really need to dig deeper. So in this tracking system, it's just a notebook. I wrote down some categories. As I live my life during the month, I'm going to record my income, and then I'm going to add my spending to the appropriate category. At the end of the month, I balance out. And that'll tell me where did I stand that month? Did I have some extra money left over? Did I spend more than I brought in? Again, a very simple overview, just developing that habit of, yeah, here's how much I'm spending on some big things like food and transportation. Here's how much I'm spending on fun. Am I saving any money? You're getting a picture of where you stand with your money. All right, let's do, yep. And then this time, the example is a spreadsheet. It goes into more detail than that notebook did. And I've got more categories. Now, instead of saying home, I'm breaking out the rent expense, electricity, insurance, internet costs, my phone. Instead of transportation, I've got the car payment, the gasoline expense, my car insurance, any repairs that happened. So instead of being a general category, it's got more specific breakdown. It's totally up to you how detailed you want to be. You just need to live your life, record your income and your spending, and balance out so you know where you stand. Next one. So if you want to use a budgeting template like the example here, you can search online. We're going to send you, or there'll be one available following the seminar. Lots of different appearances on them. And of course, you can create your own. What you're looking for is a place to enter your income, a place to enter your expenses, and a place to balance out. That's going to be on all of the examples. A lot of you said you used a phone app. I would love to know, or some kind of app. I would love to know which one you're using. There are some apps listed there on the screen, but I would love to know which ones anyone is actually using in this group. So we'll ask for that in a minute if you want to contribute which one you're using. And then be sure to let us know if you love it or hate it. We want to share out which ones are working successfully for people. When there's no reason you can't start one way and switch. When I got started, I used a notebook. And after that, a few months of that, it was like, okay, now I know what my categories are. I know how deep I want to go. I created the spreadsheet. Now I'm multiple years into my spreadsheet. And it doesn't really matter what system you're using. We do want to point out that you need to be sure you're planning some of your money for fun. Please don't just make all those necessary categories and forget that money will be spent on fun. Might as well plan for it, put it into the system. And the other thing that all of the financial advisors, everyone on the planet that talks about money, is going to tell you to have savings, to be sure as part of your budget, part of your monthly plan, to have savings be part of that. So before we hop to the next slide, Alexandra, did we have any suggestions?
We do have a couple of fun ones. We got Mint, which I see up on the screen. Yeah. Digit sounds neat. I guess you get a daily text with your checking balance.
So digit, like your finger is a digit?
DIGIT.
Perfect, thank you.
Like. Another one for Mint, and then this person did not specify, but said it's nice when it can be an app and online, which that is a nice reminder. Thank you for giving us that suggestion as well, because I know that sometimes you have your phone, sometimes you're at your computer. Yeah. I guess that is one of the perks of going digital.
So I'll just take a second and talk about a couple of the apps. Mint is probably the most common, the most well-known, and it is more of a big picture view of all your finances. In order to make it seamless, you need to allow Mint access to your passwords so that it can pull in the numbers each month. You can choose to put your own numbers in if you want to. Some of the other apps that are listed there are more about the budgeting process. That YNAB, you need a budget, is often recommended by people. Several of these apps come in a couple versions, a free version and a paid version. So it'd be up to you how much you feel you need help. If you need to pay for a more sophisticated version of a budget, and some of them also like require you to do it on the computer first, and then you can get the phone app. But yeah, all questions as you research, if I am going to use an app, which one is the right one for me? And I have consistently Googled, hey, which are the best budgeting apps? And some of these names keep coming to the top. There's the one also, I don't believe it's on there, from Dave Ramsey. And I just lost the name of it, but that is another one that it started out a little rough and then it seems to have gained popularity since its first rollout. So another one you could research. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide, which is putting our numbers into whatever system we've picked. Pretty straightforward. All the information you gathered, plug your numbers in, and the next one is do the math, which is add up all those income numbers, add up all the expense numbers, and do the subtraction to see where you stand. It's going to be either positive or negative. I guess it could come out equal. And then that's going to tell you what your next step is, what your plan is going forward. So let's take a look at the next one, which is making your plan. Congratulations. You've been brave, honest. You've looked at your financial picture. Now what? So there's a couple possible actions depending on what you've discovered. A lot of times when people are doing this tracking, they immediately find something that they know they want to change. It might be that they're not saving enough money. It might be that they're spending too much on eating out for lunch. But maybe there's a subscription you'd forgotten you had both of these subscriptions. They do the same thing. You need to get rid of one. There's lots of possibilities on what you'll discover, but a lot of people something jumps out immediately as, oh, that is something I can change. So if you have to dig a little deeper, then there's going to be a couple options for some things to do. We'll talk in a minute about what to do if you're on the short end, have more month than money. But if for some reason you're on the end of the balancing out that says, I have money left over, I actually have some excess and I wonder what the smart thing to do with it is. So here's just some options. You could build up your savings. You could pay down debt. You could save for some special events so that you didn't have to pay on credit in the future. Start saving for something. Maybe you want to increase your charitable giving. Maybe you want to join the Alumni Association. Maybe you want to increase your retirement savings. But the point is to have a plan for it, not just to be excited that there's an extra. What can you do with that extra? Come up with something that you're comfortable with on how to get that going where you want it to go. All right, let's take a look at the other side of that, which is if there's a shortfall. So it's, of course, not rocket science. If you have a shortfall and it's looking pretty consistent every month, you either have to increase your income, decrease your spending, or combine those two ideas. So I do want to point out that sometimes something simple like selling some things that you're not using might generate enough income to get rid of the credit card debt, and that would actually put your budget into balance. So don't assume that you have to do this forever. It might be that you have to increase income for a little while. It might be that you look at it and go, I thought about getting that credential, and that apparently would make a huge difference in my life. So I'm going to go ahead and study for 6 months and get this credential. A lot of different ways to approach the concept of increasing income. And then decreasing your spending, pretty obvious. Again, something may have jumped out at you as you were doing your tracking, but there's a couple of ways to think about this. One is that you can cut back on small purchases because we sometimes forget just what a difference that small purchase makes. Or you may have to do something bigger like downsize a vehicle. One of the common techniques is to be sure you're getting better pricing on your insurance and your telephone. I have a colleague, he renegotiated his phone contract, switched providers, saved like $100 a month. Many people renegotiate with their insurance company and end up saving a couple $100. There's a new thing out where you can track your driving. You do a little tracker in your car, and that one saved us $300 a year. So, see, it pays to drive like a grandma. Um, I just want to stress that there's so many different ways to think about it, and whether it's managing the little bits of money that are leaving your life and you just hadn't been aware of, or whether it's making some kind of big change.
And this is a fun suggestion as well.
Yeah.
This person said that budgeting month to month was really hard for them. So they would move half of their paycheck into savings and then move it back after 2 weeks. So if you're somebody
Ooh.
who you can cut it into like smaller durations, I thought that was a really cool tip and one I hadn't thought of before.
Oh, that's awesome. And thank you for sharing that. Yes, because what that does is for people who, if it's there, they're going to spend it, it takes it away. So you can't spend it. You don't see it. You can't spend it. Yeah, I've got a son-in-law that needs that one. Yes, definitely know yourself, know what your risks are. Does it need to be something where you move your savings? Oh, we'll talk about this in a minute. I won't give it away. But yes, fabulous idea. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now that we have looked at ways to either increase your income, decrease your spending, but basically what you've done is figured out whether you have too much money every month or not enough money, and what are you going to do about it? So don't forget that there can be some things like a tax refund or Christmas money or something that also might, on a one-time infusion, solve some of your financial situation. But can't really count on those as we look at our budget. So I hope you're feeling that the idea of making a budget is doable. Maybe you've tried this before and gotten frustrated. So we're going to take just a quick look at some common budgeting challenges. And feel free again to put things into chat. Let Alexandra know, because so many people have run into these things. And we're just going to give some ideas about how to beat them. One of the things that people run into is, that you're just not a math person. You hate that idea of creating a spreadsheet, absolutely sends you into conniptions. So there's a couple very common budgeting theories that require little math, not a lot of tracking. You're going to have to do some work at the beginning to get a picture in place to see where you stand. But one of them, if you liked numbers, it would have been called the 50-30-20 system. But since you don't like numbers, we're going to call it the needs, wants, and savings system. But basically, 20% of your income goes to savings. And then you have to subtract out all your needs, what must be paid. And then what's left over is what you spend on your wants. So there's an example there of your monthly income, subtracting out those things that must be paid, subtracting out savings, and then that gives you a number to work with for the rest of the things that are more discretionary. Okay. So that's one system. It still requires some math. There's the even less math system. And I sometimes hesitate to recommend this one, but I know there are people that this concept just is such a frustration to you. And it is more important that you not be perfect or detailed or consumed with angst. It's much more important that you have a basic financial stability. And so the way to get that is to save 15 to 20% of your income right away. Don't buy anything. Don't pay rent. Don't go to the grocery store. Don't go to Chick-fil-A. Get 15 to 20% of your income into savings and then just live on the rest. So again, this would drive some people crazy. That is not, they want to know more details about where their money's going. But if you are the kind of person where tracking is just horrendous and what you're really looking for is just some financial stability, saving that 15 to 20% before you start any spending is going to get you a long ways towards stability. So that could include, go ahead, Alexander.
I was going to say this was a good question we just got, so thank you to whoever texted it to me. But is that 15 to 20% split between all of those accounts?
Yeah. So 15 to 20% of your gross income going into a savings program that is not today. So it could be your retirement fund. It could be your health savings account. It could be your emergency fund. It could be your account for the future vacation you're planning. The point is that there's a chunk of money right off the top that is not going to be spent today. It's going to be saved because we know there are future needs. So I hope that helps. But yep. And again, a lot of people, that's insane. They have to know more detail. So that one is for the people who just, those numbers are just so bad. So really critical if you're going to do that method where you're not looking closely at where the money's going, that you take that money right off the top right away. All right, let's go to some other challenges. It can be challenging to track more of those spending categories, but it certainly takes you deeper into where your money's really going. Again, there's no right or wrong. It's totally up to you. You can list food. You can break it into eating in, eating out. I personally would be very curious about how much I'm spending on eating out. You can list a personal category, or you can list out clothing and haircuts and pets and hobbies and gifts and donations, because you want to know more. You want to know if this is matching up with who you are. So these are just your challenges as you get going. How detailed do I want to be? And then we spend differently. If you're tracking money with someone else, maybe they're a cash spender. Maybe you put everything on the credit card. Whoever's spending cash is going to have to get receipts or leave notes or take pictures of the receipts or take pictures of the coffee and write $5 next to it or whatever. But there's going to have to be some way to track where that cash is going. And then there's kind of the opposite problem. If you spend everything on a credit card or debit card, and then you don't look at the statement right away, but 6 weeks later, you're going, I spent $120 at Target. Did I get groceries? Was that table? Was that birthday present? What did I spend that on? So if you're going to spend somewhere that's not obvious, like when you go to the gas station, you pretty much assume that's the gas station that was gasoline. But if you're going to spend somewhere where it could have gone into multiple categories, you're going to have to figure out how you're going to handle that. Are you writing it on the receipt? Are you doing it right when you get home? Do you save the receipt somewhere? How are you going to track that breakdown of your expense? And that kind of leads to the thought of, how often should I do this? It's a personal choice, but most people enter their income on payday. Some people do their spending daily. They put their spending, everything they spend that day into their tracker. Some people do it weekly. It will be a challenge if you wait and only try to do it once a month. It's too long in between the spending. You'll forget, you'll ignore it. So we're going to recommend weekly or bi-weekly at the longest. And yeah, let's hop over, unless somebody has questions about budgeting. Those are the concepts we wanted to communicate about setting up a budget, some of the tricks for beating the challenges. And we'll move on to savings unless something comes in real quick on a question on that. So, why do we have savings? Well, first of all, I would like to remind you that it's not always bad. Sometimes we're saving for good stuff, right? We save for vacations and weddings. And it's not always that, oh, we know that something's going to go horribly wrong in our life, although that's probably true. But please don't think that saving is only about being prepared for bad stuff. We prepare for good stuff too. And then kind of the other thing that we want to have savings for is the fact that the alternative is so expensive. For most people, there's two alternatives if you can't afford something in the moment. One is to put it on the credit card, and one is to ask your family for money. And both of those are uncomfortable for various reasons. So Alexandra, if that second poll is there, I'd love to launch that one quick.
Yeah, let me get this up and running. And again, it will be the exact same way you all did it last time. So let's go ahead and add this. So if you do not still have it up, it'll be pollev.com/CSU Rams 282. I'm going to do it right along with you just to make sure it's working. It looks like it's not again. It's being finicky for us tonight. So there we go. And you'll click Start Survey. And we will give a couple minutes for those to roll in. It's anonymous. Take your best guess. I'll admit I didn't even look up the answer to this one, and I got the question ahead of time. So
and you know what? It changed. The last time I did this, there was a different answer. I was using 2019 numbers, okay. And now I'm using 2020 numbers, and it had changed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Give folks a couple more minutes. Looks like we might be tied. I always love the kind of the live watching them come in and kind of think about what people's thought processes are. And
well, I've got news for you. The correct answer is 33. So yes, okay. So, I'll tell you that in 2019, the answer was 69%. So I just want to remind us, as we're thinking on what's changed over the last couple of years, the pandemic actually increased savings for many people. If you hadn't heard that, as someone who works at a financial institution, I can vouch for it heartily. The pandemic actually was really good for American savings rates. Unfortunately, for a large chunk of the population, it wiped them out. So it was a diverse reaction. The pandemic either was very helpful for you and built your savings, or it eliminated everything you had and you're struggling. So it went both ways. But from 2019 to 2020, more Americans had money in their accounts than before. I do want to say that even now, even in 2021, the numbers from 2021, 25% of the people who answered the polls said they had zero in savings. A quarter of America had zero in their savings. So what's that second question looking like? Did we do that one about the interest rates?
So the average interest rate on credit cards. And it looks like we've gotten a couple of votes, but we'll give it a couple more minutes for those of you who didn't vote. You should just be able to hit next on your phone up in the top. It's in the top right on my phone. I have an Android. And the next question should pop up. This is our second and last poll of the night.
All right, we will wait just a smidgy longer. I will tell you that the correct answer is on the screen.
I did wonder if you were going to trick us tonight. You do do that sometimes, so it's good to know. And somebody here has voted the correct answer.
Somebody has voted for the correct answer, yeah.
One of these days we'll do prizes for this.
It is 19% is the average. So certainly 26% is out there. Absolutely, especially with those store credit cards, when you get like a Best Buy credit card or a Victoria's Secret credit card, those tend to be very expensive interest rates, but the average is 19. So thank you for everybody that voted on that. I hope you're thinking that, yeah, savings would be really helpful, because to put a problem, an emergency expense on a credit card is really pricey. It really does have a strong impact. All right, let's take a look at the.
I was going to say, I have a good question for you that just came in.
Yeah.
So if my credit card is 0% interest rate during the first year, is it better to switch to another card during the second year or continue and pay the interest rate?
So there can be financial savings by constantly switching around, looking for that 0%. Overall, the general financial advice is not to do that, because it does hurt your credit score to open up those new accounts. And from a financial habit standpoint, it's much better to be at a place with your credit cards where you can pay it off every month, which therefore gives you 0% interest. So that would be my best advice, is not to hop around on those unless there is a strong situation in your household where you would need to do that. But it can hurt your credit score, and it's just not a great habit. It doesn't resolve the debt.
That was a good question. Thank you for that one.
Yeah.
And if there's follow-ups to it, please don't hesitate to continue to send them in.
And I'm going to be proactive and just address a question that often comes in. If I have a choice of paying down my credit cards or building savings, which is the smarter tactic? We get that a lot. And so, again, the majority of advice out there from the financial professionals is to do both. If you focus on paying down your debt and have no savings built up, then when something goes wrong, you're right back in debt. And if you ignore the debt and pay only the minimum, it's a huge expense. So some sort of balanced approach where you're both saving money and getting rid of the debt is what is the biggest encouragement. And then I have to qualify that by saying everybody's built different. Everybody is wired different about their money. And if you are the person who the thought of debt is just killing you and it eats you up and it keeps you awake at night, focus on getting rid of the debt so you can sleep. But in general, it's advised to split that philosophy and do both. So let's talk about having emergency savings. You've probably heard that you should have 3 months of expenses set aside. I don't know if you've ever looked at that number, but if you're starting from zero, it's a scary number. So please pick a more manageable number to get started with. A lot of people start with a goal of $1,000 or the amount of your rent or your mortgage. And once you have that set aside, then you keep building, you keep adding to your account, aiming to have 3 months of expenses. But please don't view that as I have to or I'm a failure. That's just a goal. Start with something that you can do. Besides your emergency account, there might be other things that you want to save for. There's a wedding coming up. That there's a travel plan. Maybe you're going back to college. It could be your car tires. But there's something coming up that you're going to have an expense, and you want to just tuck away some money every paycheck for that special fund. And then I want to challenge you to do some research about where to keep your money. If you're going to set aside savings, you might as well earn some money on it. And I'm sorry to tell you, most savings accounts right now are paying very low interest. That's the way the economy is working at the moment. So if you want to know more about that, put it in chat. We'll stay after and talk about the economy and interest rates and loan rates and savings rates. But for now, you just need to know that banks and credit unions post their savings rates on their websites. So do some comparing and find out where you can earn more money. And I will tell you right now, Canvas has a couple of accounts that are paying very, very good rates. And if I were teaching students in high school, we'd be pulling up some research and comparing. I'll challenge you to do that research, pull it up and compare, because it does make a difference. It makes a lot of difference on how much you're earning with your savings. I need to go back, Alexandra. And how do you get those savings? Hey, the best way, without a doubt, is to pay yourself first. You've probably heard of this. It means that on payday, as money comes into your life, you immediately move some over to savings. Okay? It helps if you automate it. So this is before you're paying rent, before you're going to Chick-fil-A. Money goes to your savings account immediately on the day it comes into your life. Some of the other things that you want to think about are, is this a general fund? Am I just having a bucket of emergency money, or am I breaking it out into very specific things? Again, totally up to you. How do you want to go about your savings? Some people like to have a separate account where they don't see it. It's kind of like splitting that money on your paycheck so you don't see it right away. Pick a place that's not your primary banking organization and open a savings account there and get the money going over there so you don't see it. And then don't forget that there might be something in your life where you have, again, something changes in your budget. You paid off your car loan. Wow, now you've got $350 a month that you could do something different with. Have a plan for it. I'll throw out this challenge right now. It's going to be tax time. Many Americans get a tax refund. Have a plan for it. Don't just let it drift into your life and then drift out again. Have a plan. All right. Now we're ready for that next one. So those are all ways that we talk about building savings. But, another concept of this is that we have to spend money. Can we save when we're spending? So you'll see on the slide some of our favorite tips, but I'd love to know also in chat, again, just if you have a tip on ways you save money when you have to spend money. So while you're thinking about that, if you want to send in your favorite way that you save money when you do have to spend, notice a couple things on here. Planning your meals and making a grocery list and sticking to it is a huge way to save money. Many families tell me that when they order online and go pick it up, they save a ton of money because they're not going into the store with temptation to add items, or the kids say, oh, I got to have this. It's a comment that has come in repeatedly lately about online being a way to save money for those families. For me, it's not the best solution, but for many people it is. Did you know that if you buy coffee for $4 a day, it's more than $1,400 a year? One of those little things that might pop up if you track your spending and see just how much is going to certain behaviors. Some other things are on there about haircuts and libraries, utility rates. If you live in Fort Collins, we have tiered pricing. And if you want to spend 3 times as much money to do the same utility task, you go right ahead, but there is a way to watch the time of day that you're using electricity, and it will cost either 3 times more or the original rate. Some other tips about if you're going to spend money on recreation and eating out. Alexandra, did we have anything come in about?
A couple of fun ones. Carpooling and public transportation, which I hadn't thought about, but if that is a possibility in your household, I could see that would save a good amount of gas money.
Yeah.
Campus cash coupons also came in, which I'm guessing that we either have a student or a very young alum on. For those who don't know, Campus Cash is coupon books they hand out on campus. But I think it ties into the broader idea of who is making coupon books. I know in the town I grew up in, our sports teams would often sell them, or Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, church groups. So if that's accessible to you and you are a couponer, I think that's another good tip.
Yeah, and there's so many options now with online and Groupon and the package deals, and yeah, so many ways to save with coupons. Yeah, great one, great one. All right, let's talk about. We'll wrap up our conversation tonight with some things about goals. Yeah, have you ever said, "Yeah, I should do that," and then not done anything about it? Well, of course. We all do. I should stop eating donuts. I should walk more. I should volunteer at the animal shelter. I should eat more vegetables. Whatever your should is, when we have a specific plan, it means we're much more likely to actually do this. So if we want to pay off our credit card, we want to build emergency savings, we want to build our retirement money, then it only makes sense to have a SMART financial goal. Let's go to the next slide. If you haven't heard of SMART financial goals, they are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So I'm going to give an example of building an emergency savings account. And, the alternative is to say, yeah, I should save some money. But a SMART goal would be, I want to save $1,200 in a year. So I've made it be specific. It's $1,200. It's measurable. I can see it building up every month as I put my money aside. It's attainable. I didn't say I was going to lose 50 pounds in a week or run a marathon after 10 days. I'm not going to save $12,000 in a year. I made it be an attainable goal. And then it's relevant. I know why I'm doing it. Honestly, that's probably the most important one out of all of these things. When we know the why am I saving money? Well, because I saw my friend at the beginning of the pandemic get wiped out. Why is it relevant? Because Hawaii comes only once in a lifetime, and I'm gonna go, darn it. So the why you're doing this is so important. And then that last one is the time part. I said I'd save $1,200 in a year. So just for those of you who are interested, that is if you get paid biweekly, that's $46 every biweekly payroll, and you'd have your $1,200 in a year. So I would encourage you, if you have a financial savings goal or a financial goal about paying off a debt, a credit card, a loan, that you make it be a SMART goal. Figure out a very specific plan for making that happen. All right, let's go to the next one here. This is another reason why we're going to think about setting financial goals. So waiting too long to start your long-term goals can really be a challenge. And so this chart just shows that if you invested $3,000 a year when you were 20 years old, you would have accumulated almost $680,000 by the retirement age. Now, if you wait, instead of starting at 20, you start at 35, look how much less you have. It's the same thing. You're doing $3,000 a year. The return calculation is the same. You're earning 6% a year, but $250,000 instead. And then waiting until you're 45, you end up with $120,000. What a gigantic difference. And this is related to that Long-term thinking. It's so frustrating to think about how on earth am I going to save for retirement that's 40 years away. And I'm having trouble with my money in the month right now. So I just need you to be thinking about the fact that it really does have an impact on your long-term financial future and on long-term financial wisdom. Again, doing a budget, tracking your spending is going to help you maybe open up some money that you could put towards something that's long term. And this is a retirement example, but maybe it's home ownership, maybe it's getting rid of your student loans, maybe it's that travel around the world. I don't know, but you know yourself and your money, and take the time to consider not just the moment, not just am I going to have enough this month, but some bigger picture thoughts too, how those goals fit in. So, my challenge for you is to commit to taking some action step. Um, there's a couple of things here related to all these different topics. You know, tracking your spending is so eye opening. Even if you aren't going to set up a budget, if you tracked your spending for 2 months, it could change your financial life. It will make you aware of what your money's doing, and then you can go, I'm happy with this, or I'm not. But tracking your spending, setting up a budget, really are foundational financial activities. Opening up a savings account, making sure you have a direct deposit to it on payday, that pay yourself first idea. We talked about some savings tips. Is there anything that you hadn't thought of before that you'd like to try? We're going to send you a document that has some other savings tips on it. You might try something new that you hadn't considered before. And maybe you want to think a little bigger picture. Some kind of financial goal that for the new year is on your list. Well, it looks like we're out of time.
I was gonna say we are right at the end. I think we kept you a couple minutes over. So I just want to say one more huge thank you to Nancy and Canvas Credit Union, who really do just open up the doors to financial education for us, as well as our CSU Alumni Association members. Again, thank you truly, fully. We're so excited to dive into 2022 with you all, and appreciate you spending an hour with us tonight. I also want to thank everyone on this webinar. I know we had a little bit of technology back and forth, and chat may have worked and may not have worked. So certainly, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have additional follow-up questions. And we also hope we will see you at one of the 3 additional New Year's series workshops. Again, every Tuesday at 5:30, we'll be kicking off with Movement is Medicine next week. But with that, I don't see any additional questions. So thank you. Happy New Year. Take care of yourselves and go Rams.
Go Rams.